I calculated that in order to get this non-gravitational acceleration, it had to lose at least 10 to 20% of its mass.
Wow.
I did the calculation. So that means at least 5 billion tons.
Wow.
Astronomers woke into panic, not routine, as their phones exploded with viral images that should have been impossible. Overnight, 3I Atlas had transformed again so drastically that seasoned researchers questioned whether the public was accidentally mixing photos of different objects. But the timestamps were identical. The coordinates matched, and the chilling truth settled in. The Deepens were all the same visitor, behaving like nothing natural in the sky. The first image showed a smooth, silent disk, clean, featureless, unsettling in its stillness. But the next night, the comet looked alive, almost violent, with jets firing outward in chaotic streams like the limbs of some cosmic creature trying to break free. 24 hours later, everything changed again. The jets vanished, the glow collapsed, and 3I Atlas appeared to power down, becoming a dead-looking pebble drifting through space stripped of any activity at all. It didn't fade gradually. It switched states instantly, as if someone had thrown a breaker. Scientists began exchanging private messages filled with dread, confessing that the shifts didn't feel random, they felt coordinated, as if the object were following cues no one understood. Social media poured gasoline on the panic, naming it the shape-shifting intruder and compiling side-by-side comparisons that looked less like a comet and more like a glitching apparition. What terrified experts most wasn't the variety. It was the speed. Natural comets evolve over days, weeks, months, not within a single night, not in violently different directions, and certainly not in ways that mimic intention. Teams prepared emergency observation plans, but by the time they pointed their telescopes, 3I Atlas had already changed shape again, almost as if it sensed the attention and refused to be captured twice in the same form. The world fell into a quiet, rising fear as one question echoed across observatories, labs, and online communities. How does a natural object rewrite its appearance this fast, faster than physics should allow? And if these transformations are just the opening act, what comes next? Night after night, the fear grows. What first looked like random chaos now begins to form a pattern, one so precise it sends a ripple of unease through every observatory on Earth. Researchers stare at the latest images in disbelief. The changes are no longer merely dramatic, they're rhythmic, almost timed, as if 3I Atlas is following a schedule no human understands, and the more consistent this rhythm becomes, the more their confidence collapses. The object's behavior turns unsettlingly mechanical. After a night of explosive jets and violent outgassing, the comet suddenly strips itself bare, revealing a silent, exposed nucleus, smooth, cold, disturbingly still. It looks less like natural exhaustion and more like a deliberate reset, as though the comet is preparing for its next transformation. Hours later, without warning, a new flare erupts. No solar heating, no thermal spike, no trigger. Just a sudden blast of activity that obeys no known rule of comet physics. Worse is the light behavior. On some nights, 3I Atlas erupts into an unnatural brightness so intense it blinds telescopes, forcing mission operators to lower exposure settings as if dealing with a spotlight. The next night, it dims to nearly nothing, shrinking into a quiet, dead-looking dot. To analysts, the pattern feels eerie, more like a controlled system turning on and off than a natural object responding to the sun. Then comes the anomaly nobody wanted to see: the vanishing tail. There are angles where the tail should remain visible, yet it disappears entirely, as if someone flicked a switch. Astrophysicists panic. Geometry cannot explain this. Solar wind cannot explain this. Something is wrong. Something is hiding parts of the object in ways that defy every model. Amateur astronomers add fuel to the growing dread. Their cameras catch sudden color shifts that make no chemical sense, deep reds one night, blue-green the next, then a flash of pure white as if the object expels an entirely different set of gases. These changes happen too fast, too cleanly, too repeatedly. Even the most cautious experts whisper the same word, impossible. The deeper they dig, the more intelligent the pattern feels. The variations don't just happen, they perform, as if each change is responding to something, or preparing for something. In private channels, veteran comet researchers admit they have never seen an interstellar visitor behave with this much volatility, control, and precision. And now the question no one wants to say aloud begins to spread through labs like a cold draft. If 3I Atlas is not behaving like a comet, then what is influencing it? And what comes next? JWST was supposed to calm the panic. Instead, the moment its first scans of 3I Atlas arrived, scientists felt the temperature in the control room drop. The data didn't clarify anything. It made everything worse. The comet's coma, dominated almost entirely by carbon dioxide, wasn't behaving like CO2 at all. It fired off sudden bursts of activity that had no connection to sunlight, no link to rotation, no thermal trigger of any kind. It was as if something inside the object chose when to activate and when to shut down. Infrared readings deepened the alarm. Gas clouds around the nucleus ballooned outward in perfect spheres, only to collapse into jagged, uneven shapes minutes later. The expansion happened too fast for any known physical mechanism. The collapse happened even faster. Models failed instantly. Every simulation broke. Mission analysts stared at their screens, realizing the dust spikes looked less like natural sublimation and more like controlled venting, the kind of pattern you'd expect from a mechanism, not a rock. Then came the data set that froze the room. JWST captured the coma, spreading in flawless symmetry around the nucleus, a rare but explainable event. But hours later, the same coma collapsed violently on one side while remaining stable on the other. That asymmetry should be impossible. No known comet has ever demonstrated this. Even veteran researchers, the ones who had dismissed the early panic as overreaction, quietly admitted the physics felt wrong. Not just unusual, wrong. As if the object was following rules that did not belong to our solar system, and the contradictions kept stacking. Every new reading invalidated the one before it. Temperature spikes without heating. Brightness drops without cooling. Gas signatures that appeared and vanished as if someone flipped a switch. Scientists abandoned their sleep schedules and worked in rotating shifts, desperately trying to catch a stable pattern. But 3I Atlas refused to hold still. Its behavior evolved faster than they could analyze it, almost as if it were reacting to their attention. JWST was built to decode the universe. But with every scan, 3I Atlas slipped further out of scientific control. The fear now spreading through mission teams wasn't just about the anomalies, it was about the implications. If their understanding of these fundamentals was collapsing, then what else about this object had they misunderstood from the beginning? And as the clock ticked toward the next observation window, an even more disturbing question began forming, one that no one wanted to say out loud, because the next part of the story would be even worse. Astronomers feel a jolt of panic the moment the alerts begin flooding in. 3I/Atlas's tail isn't fading or thinning, it's simply gone. Not weakened, not distorted. Gone. As if someone erased it with a single motion. Within hours, observatories across 3 continents confirmed the same horrifying detail. Every telescope aimed at the object shows only a smooth, glowing disk, no dust, no ion stream, no sign that a tail ever existed. At first, scientists cling to the safest explanation, orientation. Maybe the comet rotated, hiding the tail from Earth's vantage point. But that comfort collapses fast when new images arrive from groups positioned at completely different angles. In every photograph, the same impossible sight. Even from perspectives where the tail must be visible, the sky behind the object remains disturbingly clean, like the dust has been switched off. Then the real nightmare begins. The next night, the tail is back. Long, bright, fully formed, as if nothing strange had happened. But the night after that, it vanishes again, disappearing with a precision that feels less natural and more intentional. Observers watching time-lapse footage say the transitions look mechanical, as if someone or something is toggling a cosmic setting on and off. Veteran researchers, people who have spent decades studying comets, are now whispering behind closed doors. They admit they have never seen a tail behave independently of solar wind pressure. They have never seen a structure collapse and reappear with this kind of crisp, binary behavior. It doesn't dim, it doesn't taper, it just exists. Or it does not. Speculation ignites like wildfire. Some claim it's a lighting trick. Others suggest optical masking, a surface effect that hides emissions on command. But the timing is too perfect, too coordinated, too unnatural. Meanwhile, online communities jump to the worst possible interpretation. Maybe the tail isn't a tail at all. Maybe it's a controlled exhaust plume, activated when needed, shut off when not. Publicly, scientists push back hard on that theory. Privately, several admit the truth no one wants to say aloud. The object is behaving as if the tail is optional, as if it's choosing when to produce it. And now, as the next observation window opens, telescopes lock onto 3I Atlas once more, only to capture a new configuration, something even stranger. Something that forces experts to confront a fear they hope to avoid. Because whatever the tail is, it's changing again. And the pattern that emerges next is far more unsettling. The panic begins the moment astronomers realize the color shift they expected once is now happening night after night, as if 3I Atlas is rewriting its own chemistry in real time. Researchers had predicted a single natural transition from red dust to blue gas as the interstellar object heated. But instead, observers across the world capture scenes that look impossible. One night the object burns molten red, the next it erupts in neon blue-green, then suddenly it collapses into a cold, ghostly white disk with no color at all. The photos don't merely differ. They contradict each other brutally, like snapshots of entirely different objects. And the worst part? Many of them were taken with identical instruments, identical settings, identical atmospheric conditions. Scientists rushed to blame filters, angle distortions, amateur mistakes, anything but the truth staring them down. Yet, time-stamped image sets show the same telescope capturing a fiery red plume at 2:14 a.m. and then a cold blue jet at 2:23 a.m. No natural comet changes chemical output in 9 minutes. Something about 3I Atlas is shifting far too fast, as if it is choosing which emissions to reveal or conceal. Then comes the cyanogen spike. The object glows a toxic blue-green one night, signaling the presence of a gas that normally appears slowly, predictably over days. But by morning, the color is gone. Not faded, erased, leaving a colorless nucleus that looks artificially muted like a screen going blank. Researchers whisper privately that this resembles a system turning emissions off, not gas naturally dispersing. Every model they run collapses under the weight of the new data. Gas should surge with heat, but the brightest emissions occur on freezing rotations. Color should stabilize as the object approaches the sun, yet it oscillates violently instead. The inconsistency feels intentional, like a behavior pattern, not a chemical reaction. Even the most conservative experts begin to waver. A senior spectroscopist admits off-camera that the fluctuations look mechanically timed, while another remarks that the colors appear deliberately synchronized, like something modulating signals. As the evidence builds, a terrifying idea spreads through the community. These colors aren't random. They aren't decorative. They may be warnings, indicators of internal pressure, structural instability, or processes no human has ever witnessed inside an interstellar body. Something inside 3I Atlas is changing faster than science can track, and the shifts are escalating. Observers now watch the nightly color roulette with dread, waiting for the moment when the next hue appears. The warnings begin. The moment astronomers notice something they can't rationalize. 3I Atlas is no longer behaving like a comet. It's behaving like something that refuses to be defined. Scientists had hoped it would mirror Borisov's steady outgassing or Oumuamua's silent glide. But 3I Atlas shatters every expectation by the hour. Its hyperbolic trajectory already marked it as a foreigner to our solar system, yet that was the least unusual thing about it. What terrifies researchers now is the growing list of changes that happen far too fast, far too precisely, and far too deliberately to feel natural. Every day, the object seems to wake up wearing a new identity. One morning, it is a smooth disk. The next, a jagged shard, then a bright pulsing beacon, then a dim, inert rock. Brightness spikes without warning, jets fire from angles that contradict all thermal logic, and color signatures flip between chemical states that should take days, sometimes weeks, to shift. To seasoned observers, the comet feels alive. Not in a biological sense, but in the way it reacts to forces that no telescope can yet detect. Even the team modeling its internal structure admits privately that the object's personality changes faster than physics allows, as if something inside the nucleus is rearranging itself. A few researchers whisper about rotational instability, while others suggest internal heat pockets, but every theory collapses when a new anomaly appears the very next night. And the biggest fear grows louder. If these small changes are happening now, before perihelion, what happens when the object reaches maximum solar stress? Some warn of sudden fragmentation. Others worry about an explosive brightening event. A few admit they have no scientific language for what might come next. For now, humanity watches helplessly as every fresh update contradicts the last. The object has never repeated a single visual state twice, not once, not even by accident. And now, as the randomness looks too organized, too coordinated, too intentional. Global anxiety climbs. Governments begin running simulations just in case. Space agencies start round-the-clock monitoring. Even veteran astronomers, those who have spent decades dismissing sensationalism, cannot hide their unease on live broadcasts. And through it all, one question refuses to die. What exactly is humanity witnessing as this alien visitor evolves before our eyes? And what will it transform into next?